This is definitely going to be one of the hardest videos I've ever had to make on this channel for sure. This is not going to be my traditional comparison video or even review because, I mean, I'm just gonna give it to you guys straight who just want to get the information. I don't recommend this $1,799 10th generation MacBook Pro. Yes, on paper and benchmarks, this does outperform the $1,299 version, 8th generation, but in my own comparison, or just in my own testing that I was doing, this MacBook Pro 1299 version was outperforming this MacBook Pro 1799 version. And I was just getting really frustrated the whole time because I just don't know how $500 extra doesn't give you $500 extra performance. And I don't know if this is an Apple problem. I don't know if this is an Intel problem, but this 10th generation chip inside this form factor is just not a good product. But if you guys do want to know the extra features or things that you get inside the 1799 model, you get 2 extra Thunderbolt 3 ports, you have better speakers in my opinion, you get better graphics, and you get an extra fan that in my opinion doesn't really do anything. This fan was running at like 4,000 RPM. Since this one has 2 fans, both fans are running at around 2,000 RPM. So if you total that up, it's running at the same RPM and the temperatures are pretty much the same. So I don't think that extra fan is doing that much for the CPU. But I do think both Apple and Intel are to blame here. I don't think it's just an Apple problem. I don't think it's an Intel problem. I think it's a mixture of both. But I want to get into a story of how I actually got into Apple. I actually disliked Apple products altogether. I thought they were overpriced and whatnot. And I had to take a mobile development class in college in 2017, and it required you to have a Mac because we were building applications in Swift. So I went to newegg.com. I bought a used mid-2012 non-Retina MacBook Pro 2012 that I actually still have to this day. Yeah, I still use it as my personal laptop. I love this device, but age is definitely catching up to this thing and I want to replace it. It's gonna be replaced with this one more than likely, but yeah, this is how I got into my Apple-ness. And honestly, I loved Apple. Once I got that product, I fell in love with their MacBooks. I fell in love with the iPhone. And then like the build quality is exceptional. The software is exceptional. The ecosystem is exceptional, but I feel like there's always something you have to sacrifice when you get an Apple product nowadays. It just seems that you're always having to sacrifice something, and that something always comes with performance. I don't want to say with their iPhones are pretty fast, their iPads are pretty fast, but specifically their MacBooks, I just feel like you're sacrificing performance when you're getting into a more expensive price range. So like I said before, this $1,799 model was performing worse in certain tasks than this $1,299 version. And I want you guys to keep in mind, this one has an extra 8 gigabytes of RAM that's running at 3,700 megahertz on a newer generation. It has the 10th gen processor, and it's just worse. I don't know what to say. And overall, like both experience using it, they're both pretty snappy, but I really just can't tell the difference between the two. So you may be asking yourself that the website shows that there's massive improvement in this 10th generation 1799 model. And I thought the same thing too. So I was like, you know what? Let me go to the website, double check what I'm reading. And what I found is, first of all, as you get older and more documentation gets thrown your way, you gotta read between the lines, take the time to read documents if they are important. But with the website specifically for this MacBook Pro, I noticed that the comparisons that they were doing were with a baseline MacBook Pro dual core. And I was like, huh, that's strange. And then I noticed footnotes attached to their testing that they did. And I scrolled to the bottom and I was just blown away by what I saw. So the test and the results that they got were from a fully loaded MacBook Pro 10th generation i7, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 4 terabytes of storage, pre-production model. And on top of that, they said that their results were all approximations of what they believed that the MacBook Pro would be performing at. So you're basically comparing a $3,600 computer to, I don't even know, like, of course you're gonna get crazy massive improvement results from that. So I do think it's a little bit unfair, but I mean, it's marketing at the end of the day. And you know, I guess Apple really has to work with whatever Intel is giving them because they are their supplier for their chips. But I am glad Apple is transparent. It's not like they were trying to hide anything. The footnotes were there, it listed out all the specs. But I mean, like I said before, it's marketing at the end of the day, and it's a business and they got to make money somehow. And with this whole MacBook lineup, it just makes it so confusing because I have the iPad Pro right here that they recently released, and all my videos recently within like the past month and a half have been edited on this iPad Pro because I've had a better experience editing 4K on this device than both of these. I just don't know what it is. I really don't. So it's harder for me to recommend getting a MacBook when you have a device like this that has a better camera for video conferencing, and it does it quietly, cooler. And you know, could be just because Apple's developing their own chip inside of here. It would be nice to see what Apple can do with their ARM chip in their MacBooks coming up. Who knows when they will come out, but that's my tidbit on my iPad Pro. Yeah, like the Surface Book 3 that Microsoft just announced recently, it starts at the same price as this $1799 version, but for $200 extra, you get an i7, you get a dedicated graphics, you get a 1650 Max-Q, which for people who edit Adobe products on Windows, CUDA, you get CUDA cores. Your Adobe Premiere, I think, is going to love your CUDA cores in that GPU. You get a better display, touchscreen, it turns into a tablet. I mean, you get Wi-Fi 6. I mean, it's just so hard to recommend this $1799 MacBook Pro when there are other products out there that just honestly blow this thing out the water. Like I said before, man, I don't know. I don't know if this is Apple's fault. I don't know if this is Intel's fault, because I mean, Apple is at the mercy of Intel and the products that they put out. But I always did find it weird that Apple always got Intel chips like six months before everyone else, like the Windows laptop series or competitors got their CPUs, but the MacBooks always just lagged like 6 months to almost a year behind in generations for Intel processors. But I mean, at this point, Apple, I would say just focus on making your own CPUs if you do think they will be beneficial for not only your consumer, but for yourself. I don't know if you want to go back on that, have a chat with Lisa Su. I'm sure AMD will love to write you off a contract with their 4000 series and above. But I mean, like, you guys are worth $1.35 trillion. To put that in perspective, they're worth more than all the credit card debt in America. They're worth more than the car loan debt in America. And they're almost worth more than the student loan crisis debt in America. That, to me, one sec. But do something to fix your MacBook Pro lineup, because this starts at $1299, and for $500 extra, you don't get that much more performance out of this thing. But if you get $500 extra from this, you go to the base, not actually, it's like $600. You go to the base 16-inch MacBook Pro and you get way more performance in that thing. But I mean, like I said before, if you throw the iPad Pro in the mix, it just makes it even harder. So I don't know, guys. I can't recommend the $1799 model in good faith. Like, this thing just, it doesn't exist to me. This $1299 one is much better. I actually do love this product. I would say that if you are looking to get a MacBook, put 16 gigabytes of RAM in here. If you want to, get 512 gigabytes of storage, and I think you will have a really good MacBook Pro. But I mean, that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'm sorry that I'm not like super happy self. Like I said, I'm just really frustrated after doing my testing. I will have comparison videos coming out later this week with the iPad Pro and the MacBook Pro 2012. I was going to make a 1,000 subscriber milestone video, but I blew past that really fast and I'm at 2,000. So I'm thinking I'll probably just do a giveaway in the future. But as always, guys, much love.